Today on the show, I'm really excited about this topic. Really going to look at some strategies for hiring successful people and actually retaining them. So, really a hot topic in a lot of industries. We focus on working with business owners and leaders to help them get the most out. Just want to give a shout out. I always want to say invest in yourself. If you haven't spent time investing in yourself, meaning in you, and a lot of times I challenge people and ask them the question, how much are you actually investing in you as a person to understand yourself, how you become a better leader and all that. If you're interested in understanding the mindset piece behind a lot of this, 80% of your current reality is due to mindset, how you think, the soundtrack that's playing in your head. If you've never invested in that, most people have spent more on coffee or beer than they've ever done that. So I just want to, give you an invitation. If you want to talk about that, I've seen so much success come by understanding that mental soundtrack and what's going on, even in recruiting. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at a couple things. But what are some of the challenges that come? When you think of hiring? It's talent shortages, high competition for challenges, ineffective job descriptions, a lengthy hiring process. If you don't have people, you can't do the jobs. There's just so many things. If you can't do the job, you can't make money. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I think the goal today is just to give you some simple, real life things that you can do to improve, to improve that. What is the impact? And I will ask you this question too, of poor hiring or retention. It's reduced productivity. You have increased recruitment costs. Sometimes there's a skill gap between experienced people and the people that you're bringing on. So there's just so many things that happen with hiring, and I just want to talk about a couple things that you most may commonly hear or say, and then I want to give you some of mine, some of the things that I think are most important. So I'm going to go down and kind of debunk some of the things that you hear. And I actually want to show you what I think about them, because I think that gives good perspective in, what's different and what you should do. So what you might be hearing and what I think. So one of the things that I hear, we'll go down, I have 5, and I'm actually going to compare this to some of the ones that, I found, out there on the internet, people are talking. But number 1 is define company values and culture. I think that's great. And I think that needs to be communicated to people. But a lot of times people put something on the wall and it's not actually being withheld to. So, how can you demonstrate your culture? Because you have a culture. Demonstrate that. That's going to help you align with who you want. If you know who that is, it's going to help you understand, who you want to have. And all the stuff that I cover, really, my whole goal when I cover topics, whether I'm doing it for a group, an owner, a session like this, where you're finding this on a podcast, YouTube, LinkedIn, or any of the social media channels, is I just want you to take one nugget away. One nugget is the key thing here, because if you have one thing that helps you out, then that becomes a good session. It's worth your time. The second thing that I hear is developing comprehensive job descriptions. One of the an area would be like an like the, SOPs, standard operating procedures, things like that. I really don't actually like that. I'm against that. I actually want simple job descriptions, maybe five things that are mission critical to your success. I've seen people that have the whole portfolio of everything broken down, and man, I can't tell you how nobody knows what they're doing. And an owner goes in and he or she circles the one thing in the job description that they're not doing, and it isn't successful. So, I really like simplifying it and really communicating. If you had to get down to the really basic thing that you need, that you want them to do, what is it? If it's winning the job, for hours, if it's, getting Google reviews, if it's, make it what that really makes the biggest impact. When you do that, I think that's really good. Utilizing strategic, recruitment channels, using different ways to get them. A lot of times we list online, but what I challenge people to do is figure out, where are your people? where are the people that you need? Because a lot of times the people that you want that are good in your company, they're doing something. I've had people, find out what they like to do, where they hang out, what they're involved in, and be present in that. Maybe it's sponsoring. It'll actually cost you a lot less money, if you do it this way consistently. So find the right channels for your business. It isn't just posting on a job hiring platform. Streamlining the hiring process, I think, is very important. So making it easy for people to buy is something that you hear. So making it easy for people to join or start with your company, but still checking the boxes. I think that's really important to make sure you're streamlining the hiring process. You're making it easy. You're making it easy for people to join your company, but you're not rushing it, because rushing it and not getting the right person is very costly. We know that. Having a format for your interviews that touch on maybe some of your key points. So what are the things that you're looking for? Do you even know? I find a lot of times most people don't know what they're looking for in a job hire, and that ultimately causes confusion when it comes to job hiring. So if you're looking for a good attitude or somebody that's positive, you should really be rating them with standard questions. So the question is not, are you positive? Because we know that answer would be like, yeah, of course I am. But maybe it's teeing them up for a negative thing and seeing if they naturally spin it back positive. You could actually say something like almost in a negative way and see if they take it positive. I don't really like X, Y, and Z. Me neither. Are they just going to match what you do, or do they turn it around and say, they actually haven't been bad for me. I can't really say anything bad about that. Be some interesting tests that you can do just to see. But consistency in the interviewing process. If you don't have that, that's a good place to have a procedure to say, these are the 5 questions. These are my money questions. These are the 10 questions that I ask somebody. They're open-ended questions, yes or no, that actually gets them to respond in a way that isn't scripted. We want to get the script out of the interview process and have things that make them be themselves. The more that we can see them as themselves, the more that we're going to know. Number 6 is offering competitive compensation and benefits. So I am a firm believer of, if you're able, try to offer in the upper spectrum of what you're doing. Because if you do that, you're going to draw better talent. The key is making sure that you hire somebody with the skills. Now, you're going to say, everybody tells me that they have the skills and they can do it. Yes, shame on you. My joke is, you should put them in sales, because they're actually selling you that they have the skills. So again, hire the person for sales if they've convinced you that they had it. Regardless of that, what I'd like you to do is have a simple way to know that they're accountable. If you can know that they're accountable, and you have, one of the things we look at is our scaling score system. So if you have a system that allows you to keep score and grow the right way, then you're going to know if they're doing well. And you're going to be able to know and it's not going to go on and make a lot of mistakes. You're going to be able to hold them accountable. I find that even if somebody isn't 100% match in your role, if they have clear expectations, they're actually going to, hit the goals, a lot of them, that you set out to do. So I think compensation, instead of the mindset of having to prove it to you, if you do a good job, I would try to lay it out the other way and say, you know what, based on everything that you said, I'm going to go here first, and I want you to meet me by delivering, what you said you're going to do. Here's how I'm going to keep you accountable, and these are the specific things that I need to do. So really important there. Onboarding is another thing that is important in the training, hiring, retention. It's setting the right examples. If I go back to the score system, it's really important to have simple ways to measure if they're doing it and doing what they need to do, and training them around the most things. So sometimes an onboarding program looks like nothing. Sometimes an onboarding looks like showing you all the things that aren't important to your job and a couple things that are important to your job. What I recommend is simplifying it to the only things that they need to do successful, because they're getting thrown so many things. So as you're feeding them this, that, it goes down to everywhere, to even where the bathroom is. And I think we need to simplify and say, if you don't remember anything else from day one, just remember these three things, these five things. And here's what I want you to do in regards to the role that you're in. I find they do that very successfully, and I think you'll be happy. So onboarding can go back and train and bring them up to speed with, company culture and some of your core things they're important. But in the beginning, it just has to be simple. The easier you make it for onboarding, and the easier it's going to be. I think this is good to have a simple checklist so other people can do it. Everybody should get the same, onboarding, things, across the board. I think number 8, investing in employee development. So how are you investing in your people? That says a lot about where you want to go and what you want to achieve. So, investing for continuous learning, promoting development opportunities. People feel great when they're learning. When you learn something and you feel like you can make an impact, it really changes the game. So make sure that you have some type of way in there. It doesn't have to be a lot. A lot of times there's local seminars, there's some builders and associations that you can get involved in. Can really, really be good. 9, I'm going to go with positive work environment. It's really important to have a positive work environment. And most people say they have a positive work environment until you ask their people. Then other things come out in different perspectives. So really try to get buy-in and help your people create that as well as you. I mean, you have to obviously, as a leader, facilitate that or have somebody in your organization do that. But really look at, how you're creating a positive work environment, making sure people feel valued, making sure that you're letting people know how they're doing. Again, if I go back to our scaling score system, if you give continually feedback on progress, you're not just being critical, you're praising when every week or sooner when they're doing the right job. So, really, really important. And then, engagement and recognition, make sure you recognize them for what they're doing. And I think that's really, important. So I want to go, these are some ones that I found on the internet. They were basically, a handful of them. I basically gave a little bit of my take, and I want to actually go to Seth's 5 tips for better hiring and some of the retention. So I'm going to go number 1. Number 1 for me is, if I had to simplify this, I would say, do you have a plan? That's the first question for me is, do you have a plan? If you don't, you need to create one. If you do, you need to evaluate and execute. So that's where I start. And I'm amazed how many times people will complain about, the recruiting or whatever. And I ask them what they're doing. They threw an ad on social media and they didn't get any hits. They didn't put any time into creative, getting their messaging, the writing, any of the things, the offer, what sets them apart. And they're just upset that they're not getting anybody to hire or not getting good people. So maybe you're getting an influx with a lot of bad people or people that don't have the skills, but you're not getting the good people. Do you have a comprehensive plan? Do you have something that you sat down either with yourself, a partner, the team, and really develop something that you can execute? If you do, then it's time to evaluate it. Is it working? If it's not working, we need to change some things. If it's working, we need to execute. So that's the first step, is being honest. So being honest where you stand. Even in business, if things aren't going well with something else, just be honest, because then you can, if you're honest with it, you can actually get results and make things happen. The second part of what I want to show you is create a plan or create a new plan. I really want a balanced approach, and I want you to focus on the most impactful items. So the most impactful items mean, how do you identify what is the highest likelihood of getting candidates? Where are your people at? So if there's a small pool, and we use this for a contractor. So if the contractors hang out at the fire station, it would make sense to either have somebody there or sponsor events where you can get people that might be used to working in a certain industry. There's some correlations like that. So that is way cheaper than any of the online platforms, and you'll probably get a better person, a local person, somebody that can help you and fill out a role. So That's a balanced approach, putting energy where you're going to get a return, not just throwing it out to social media and expecting you just to get flooded with it. If you're going to do social media, you have to have a plan to drive engagement and have people want to work there, because there's so much media out there. It's actually can be overwhelming. So creating a balanced approach, making sure that you have different areas from media, from stop-ins, from local stuff, from sponsoring. Do you have an actual plan, and you need to create it? So the first is be honest. The second is create a plan with impactful things. Little things actually add up to get stuff. The third thing of my tips are to keep it simple. We need to keep it simple for applicants. We need clear expectations of what they're going to be doing and what their pay is. This is the role, and this is what I want you to do. These are the 5 things that I'm going to count on you for doing. That is setting you up for success, because then what you're going to do is you're going to hold them accountable for those things. Now, are there 75 things that they're going to be doing? Absolutely. But I want you to think about what is most important. I can live with 80% of what I need to do, and the other 20%, if they do it, great. If they don't, great again. I want to focus on mission critical things. If they do these 5 things, we'll be successful. A real key in the scaling score system. Keeping it simple, even for pay. If I keep it simple and know what I want to advertise the pay for the ideal candidate. That doesn't mean I'm going to pay it unless I find the ideal candidate. I love that. A lot of times people will go out and they'll put a low number down. Well, a low number, what all that means is you're looking for the bottom of the barrel. And then you're going to say, well, if you do a good job, I'm going to, I'll bump you up to that, to X, Y, or Z. Change our mindset, change our thinking. And I want to go back to point number 1. I have a, 1A, 1B, whatever I would say, is to evaluate your mindset in all this. One of the things that we talk about in everything that we do is mindset. What do you currently believe in regards to recruiting and talent and their skill set? Whatever you believe there, it's what you're going to attract, and it's what you're going to settle on. So if you think that the generation XYZ is terrible, then you're going to hire that person or not hire them. So if you don't hire them, you might miss out on good people. And if you do hire them and you hold that belief, you're going to project that, and you're probably going to get that exact same result. So mindset's a huge thing in this whole game. Understanding what you think and really questioning it. Can you go into this with an open mind and be free of the previous experiences if you really want success? If you can free yourself of that, you're going to get better results. The fourth thing that I would like to go to is hold people accountable. Know your offer. What is your value? What do you bring to people? And then be able to that higher pay, like I mentioned. If you hold people accountable and are clear with your whole, offer and everything, that is really key. So you're willing to pay somebody more, you're willing to hold them accountable, and you're willing to show them what is different about your role. You cannot be cookie cutter if you want to be different. So what is the value that you bring, and do you know it? If you were just cliche with like everybody else, we're a family, and I don't know, you can come up with a million things that you probably hear, but you get into an organization, you're like, wow, maybe the owners thought that, but the vibe is not what we're getting. So I think that's really important to understand, that things align. So be who you are. Don't say you're somebody different. That's one way to lose somebody. It's like, you're like, hey, we're very positive, we're family oriented. Maybe you are like that at home, but at work you have a different demeanor or a different feel, and that comes through. Whether you like it or not, it's just the reality. So my goal is not to say you are not doing that, but the question is, if you're saying it, you bring somebody in and then they don't last, you're having retention problems, maybe look at the alignment. Are you who you think you are? And maybe you're great at recruiting, but nobody stays. What's going on here? We have to unpack that. So, hold people accountable, but be honest with yourself. The mindset lens goes through each one of these things, and how you're viewing things, how you're thinking about it. And my fifth thing that I think is really important, as a scaling scoreboard creator and scaling score system creator is execute the plan. Once you have it, execute it, but keep score. Lead with front leading metrics. So these are the earliest metrics and activities that you can look at that are going to drive results. Make sure you're keeping track. If you pay somebody higher, you're keeping track of the results. Make sure that you're giving clear expectations on the job. Make sure that you're looking at trends ahead of time with your recruiting. Make sure you know the ratios. So keep score. How many resumes do you need to get that applicant? How many people do you need to apply? Maybe it used to be 5 people to get one. Maybe it's 25 people now to get one. If you know that, you just can't do the same thing. And that's a mindset thing again. Mindset says, I'm just going to do the same thing. Maybe hiring has got a little bit more difficult, and I just expect the same results. We need to reframe that and say, I'm going to need to put in more energy, more effort, and I'm willing to do it because I believe that there's good people out there. I'm going to put the time, energy, and effort in because that in the end is going to help X, Y, and Z. It's going to free up your time. It's going to create a better life. It's going to keep your customers happy. It's going to drive higher profits. They're going to stay. You're going to have to do it less and less. Put in a little bit more time, but keep score of what you're doing. If you're not measuring your recruiting, and people look at me crazy sometimes, especially in service businesses, or, they might think like, yeah, the big global companies do that. Well, keep it simple. If you had to create all this paperwork and these things, I agree that's too complicated, but you can simplify your recruiting and hiring and retention and know at a quick glance if it's working. And if something is off, like if you have to get like 500 applicants to get one position for a basic position, you may say, well, something isn't clear in my messaging. We've been able to cut that even like 5 times and say, well, maybe it's only 50 people to get one because you just had to switch this little thing. Maybe it was your thinking. Maybe it was wording. Maybe it was how you presented it. Maybe you were giving the low price out there and nobody was buying it. So, if you want to be fully staffed, really look at your mindset and how you're thinking about it. Do you believe? Do you have a plan? So my 5 steps, do you have a plan, and how are you thinking about this whole thing? Create a plan, keep it simple, hold people accountable, execute, and keep score. You can be fully staffed. Hiring can be easy. You can keep your people. I know you can. If you need help with any of this, please reach out. We're here for you. We've had people that are fully staffed, stay fully ready, and have a full bench ready to pull people off.